Hey, what's up, guys? All right, so I was working on the Machete with the steering issue, and I said got that resolved. We had a strip horn, got it back together. I didn't like the way it was going back to center at the end of the video. After I was driving it, it kind of stayed to the right a little bit. And like I said, I've had this truck out before when we drove it. I never remember that having that issue, so I didn't want to send it back to the customer that way. And I started looking around, and it looks like he's got a couple issues actually. I found one in the back there as well. You can tell that tire's a little off there, but if we look, there's a screw sitting pulled out as well back there. That side's good, but it looks like the bulkhead back there, at least the piece holding it. On the front, it looks like it's a bulkhead because the piece that's broken off looks like it's directly attached to this piece, the tower. So the back I'm not sure of yet, but this definitely was probably what led to our steering issues. All right, so so far all I've done is I've taken the two screws out of here, which are accessed right through here, and let that fold down. I might have to take this all the way off. Again, this is the first time I've actually had to fully disassemble something here. And now I did get the noodle screw out. This thing's definitely had better days. I mean, it's bent twice. So it looks like it started to come out, I guess, when the piece broke, and then was the only thing holding this arm onto the truck. So we're going to go ahead and I'll find the access real quick to get this off. Hopefully we do it in the least amount of screws, but I will probably just go ahead and get started. I took the shocks off, by the way, obviously just so I could get to it, but that was only the two screws. That's the only other thing besides that. But yeah, let's see what the process is, and I'll go over it with you guys in case you have to do the same. I'm going to attempt first just to take these two out here and see if maybe the top slides out, but I don't see any screws for this, guys, so I think the screw holes are going to be the ones on the bottom, and they're probably long and come up through here and then go into this part. Well, as predicted, these are pretty long, so I'm going to go ahead and just drop the whole front real quick. And like I said, for the first time doing it, I'd rather have the whole thing out and take a good look at it. And then I'll go from there. You guys, if there's any shortcuts, obviously I'll go over them at the end that we wouldn't have needed to do. But for now, I'm just going to drop all 5 of these and see what we got. So I got the bolts out. Don't mind my mess here. This truck was filthy when I brought it in. So the longer screws are going towards the front. I mean, they're not much longer, but just in case you guys set these out, I'm sure it'll make a difference. It is a couple millimeters longer, so just keep that in mind. Got all the screws out here. It looks like it's the only last two right there that go into the front of the hinge pin holder. So I'll drop them, and that should release this skid and bumper. We'll see. That did it. Alright, so all this part looks good. Let's set this off to the side here. I think it's still held on. I mean, I got all the screws out of the bottom of this thing. I can see it separating. So we'll figure out what else is holding it. Oh yeah, we still got to take these out. That's probably what it is. And this piece is molded pretty well, so it might be holding down on top. We'll see if once these screws are out, I can slide it out or not. I'll let you know. Save some time. Let me show you what I've had to do so far. So I was struggling with the bottom piece. Of course, it looks like it's just a hinge piece that comes off. Would not budge. So then I'm like, all right, let me get my needle nose. And that takes that right out. So I've disconnected the nut and screw on the link. I'm disconnected this piece now. Now I can set my whole arm set off to the side here. And I broke out my breakdown truck here because this piece is way more complicated than I thought. And I do not have it in stock. It looks like this whole piece, these have to take these two screws out and you just have to lift these up off of it because they kind of sit down on this. So once you get them off to the side, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this without my other hand, but everything, there it goes, everything comes out. Alright, so there's the screws for the servo saver bottom. I shouldn't need to take those off to take this top piece off, which is what's broken. But all of this is what you need if you have a lower bulkhead. If you, since this isn't a hinge pin piece, right? If you break that or anything like it did on the top here, right there, you've got to take all this off. Now again, now that I know how to do it, it's not the end of the world, but like, who the freak wants to take this whole piece off when especially like if it was just this piece, dude, I'd be beside myself right now. Like, I saw this was on the bulkhead and already knew I was in for some screwing, you know what I mean, or you know, working here. But this, if this piece broke, I'm expecting to be able to just take this piece off and put a new one on, not go through this. So I guess I'm going to get this open real quick, and then since I don't have this piece, like, I don't even remember seeing anything like this. I'm sure it's a 2 or 3 piece part here. I'm just going to take it off my parts truck because we've already ripped down some stuff off of this. It's cheaper for me to do it this way than stock every single little piece of a vehicle sometimes. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, I'll rip this open and see what all we're looking at here, guys. All right, so you did wind up having to take those 2 out. Whichever, that means even if, oh my God. Oh, I don't even want to figure that out. It means even if, you know, it's not this piece and it's just this piece, you still got to take this whole piece out of the truck to be able to work on either piece of it. And that to me is just, it's crazy. I don't see that a lot with a lot of other vehicles. All right, so that's how this piece goes in case you get it off. You got to remember the screw hole needs to be here for that. That is a different servo saver style, guys. Instead of the linkage and stuff, I mean, I like it. Don't get me wrong, because it's rolling on bearings. It's nice and solid. You don't have to worry about any extra linkage. That's actually pretty sweet. I ain't going to fault that, but just the same thing. The access to get to it is a little bit more than you expect. I'd have to look at my time that I started, and you know, I've had to stop a couple times, so there may not be as much time into this as I thought. But all right, let's get this thing swapped off, and apparently I'm going to be just replacing this whole upper piece right here for that one little break. Fun times. All right, so we're back at this one now. What I've got is I took this apart, put the new bulkhead top piece on. As you can see, we got the arms ready to go for those to go back in. So this can go back on just like this, and we can actually start fastening it back to the truck. The nut that I found, I don't know if I've recorded it or not, but there's a nut on the bottom of this Ackerman. So when you take this steering link off with that shitty rubber boot, which I left off because it was binding and catching, once you take that thing off, it's like almost impossible. If you take it off the wrong way, if you go to take this screw out right now, it's going to take that rubber boot and it's going to twist it, and it basically rips it out of this holder. I think this was originally like molded in this, or maybe sandwiched in here. I'm not exactly sure how it was, because every time I take it off, I take the screw off first and have shredded it. But it looks like the access is, you've guessed it, take all this out, take those 2 screws out, and then you can get to the nut that's on the bottom of that, take that off, and that relieves the pressure, I guess, once you open this up, of that rubber ripping. So the rubber's no good. It looks like it just protects, like, getting a little rock down there or something, which you could easily turn and shake out. So I'm going to leave it off for this one as well. Customer ripped his off, and I ripped the one on the new one, taking it off. So we're doing without for now. But who knows? This might not be the last time this has got to be opened up. So we're going to slap this back on here. It should go back on just the same way. I'll hook up the servo horn back to it once I'm done. Put the bolts in the front skid back on, and then we'll start putting some arms back on. Really. This girl is tired of me working on this truck. But we're back together. I adjusted his ride height because this thing was sitting so low. I mean, I tightened this up, put some thicker oil in the shocks as well for him. You know, he didn't ask for it, just kind of needed it. Now you can see that the rear sagging some, so I'll probably do the same in the rear once I get to it. But we're back together. Got the new bulkhead on, hooked up the servo, all that stuff. Let's test it out now because, like I said, we were having some snapback issues, and I think that arm was what was messing that up. So let's see what we got here. There it is. Now, this servo is much stronger. I don't know if I mentioned this in this video or the video I'm doing for the other setup here, but this servo is much stronger than what the BEC on this ESC is going to handle. So don't go, if you're going to go out and get this truck and say, oh, that's a slow turning radius. When you're driving, it's actually faster. If I pick it up, Ronnie, watch out, baby. See, it's much faster when you pick it up. So it's just the weight is slow. So if you had this on an 8.4, it would be throwing these tires back and forth with almost, I think, 18 or 20 kilograms more of power, not to mention the speeds increase. So an external BEC might be the way to go, unless you're going to go out and get like a 1230 SG Savox that runs at 6 volts, you know, at 50 or 500 ounce, which is, I think, like 46 or 46 kilogram, maybe 45, somewhere around there. I think it's what's marked at. So to go get that speed at 6 volts, you're going to pay, you know, upwards at least 60 to 70 bucks. Or you can get an external BEC that would crank up that ESC just a little bit, because it needs a little bit more for these wheels and things. And I just don't want you guys thinking it's the servo. The servo can definitely handle the extra power. It's just not running at its max potential. That's all. But we're done, guys, on this. I'm going to go ahead and tear this rear apart. It's going to be a separate video. You know, and we'll go from there. Like I said, check out that rear. I'm sure it's going to be very similar, obviously without less. It might actually be a little more difficult because it's got that rear diff in there, but the center diff's in the middle, so it should be almost identical, but we'll see. If anything hokey with that, I'll film it. If it needs to be on video any different than this, then I'll make another video. But appreciate you guys, and say bye, Brown. Just wants to sit on my lap and be done for the night. All right, guys, I appreciate everybody.